Hello, I can see more of you in the back. It is a real privilege to be here today. And I'm going to start by talking about the fact that one of the first things a great mentor of mine ever taught me was to dispel the idea of the lone genius. Those people so far advanced in their visionary powers that they sit aloft in their high towers, generating insanely great ideas and literally leading a single-handed intellectual or creative revolution. We have this innate desire to tell these exciting tales, and yet actually the reality is that history has taught us over and over again, I'm going to click ahead, about the fact that the greatest breakthroughs, the greatest ideas in history have actually come from lots of different ideas coming together. People with different backgrounds, different interests, those ideas jostling with each other, bouncing off each other, clashing, colliding, and connecting the seemingly unconnected. And there is a whole philosophy around the fact that when you're in a community like that, there's a privilege. One person's hunch in the back could connect with another person's hunch in the front. And by bringing that level of thinking in, you actually start to kind of welcome in those different ideas. And that's going to underpin what I'm going to talk about today, is the fact that we have to step outside of our own boxes to fuel a different kind of creativity by letting in those different diverse perspectives. So I'm going to show you a clip to get everybody in the mood, everybody smiling, and let's play tape.
When you look in nature, you see how things flow in a natural way. In nature, things are in a circle. You know, you got the water cycle, the food cycle, wind moves in a circle. What goes around comes around. I lived in a teepee for 17 years, a circle. You know, birds build their nest in a circle. You get to see the world in a circle, and you see your unity to the natural world when you pay attention to and get immersed in and connected with nature. And if you look at the modern world, you know, it's not so circular. You wake up in the morning, you're sleeping in a square. You step out into a square room, and you walk through a square door, and you walk to your table that's a square, and you pour your cereal out of a square box. And pretty soon you get in your little square and you go to your little square building, and you probably get into a square elevator. When you go upstairs, you get in your little square room and you sit in front of your square screen and you punch on your square keys. You know, you have a square day. That's not very well rounded. The world of nature is all about the circle. And you look at the punch card, time clock, plastic cookie cutter world of modern, normal America, and I think, do I want to be normal? There is a better way.
So I'm feeling very circle. Is everybody else feeling circle? So I'm going to talk a bit about what I'm trying to solve for. So a lot of you are hearing right now, sorry, my clicker, about the fact that the pace of change, disruption, the boom, the explosion in choices, technology, platforms, connections, we have more of everything except one thing, which is time. And attention has become the most valuable, finite, rare source of anything on Earth. And what you're seeing as a result is an epic battle being played out as we try and grab hold of that attention. And what we do as creatives is we decide to cut through the clutter. I know, we're going to create more clutter. So 20 years ago, you might have seen 2,000 ads in a day. Nowadays, how many do you think? Roughly around about 6,000 ads in one single day, not just popping out at you, but following you, emitting smells to you in bus stops. But also, right, technology has allowed us to be empowered, and we can now block the noise. So we're trying to get attention. We can more actively block the noise, and it's becoming increasingly difficult to be found. So as creatives, lots of people think that great creativity is enough, and it isn't enough. And I encourage all of you to spend time on what we call the lonely part of the web. It's incredibly cathartic. There are numerous sites now set up to amass the increasing number of videos, tweets, songs, where view count sits at absolutely zero. Sad Tweets is my favorite. You should go on there sometime. And it's my job in this mix, and a lot of your jobs in this mix, to not keep bombarding, to not keep interrupting people's lives, but to try and find creative ways to bring people in, to meaningfully engage. And One of the things we often don't talk enough is so many brands right now are operating like brands, not human entities capable of two-way interactions, and yet the people you're serving are human. And the one thing we don't talk about enough is that the more technological and complex the world becomes, the more human brands are going to need to be. Because the one thing that hasn't changed in all of this disruption is people. We still love, and we want to be loved. We still worry about the future and change. We still wake up every day hoping that today will be better than yesterday. And the very mechanism that we have used to make sense of the world around us in all of this time has been the power of story. Stories help us fuel our curiosity, play out our hopes, our fears, or to just create joy. And I understand that there are many of you in this room who are incredibly super smart, so you're going to hear from somebody very, very young who can talk about story as well.
This book is dedicated to Delia Arana in her honor of completing the 1,000 Books Before Kindergarten program 2016. I'm Delia Arana. I'm 4 years old, and I read 2,000 books. In January, I was invited to be a librarian for the day at the Library Conference. I hopefully want to become a real librarian. I love to read in the library. I also like to read in here and in my sister's closet. I think it's my own private library. If I make my own library, then I'll be happy for the rest of the day. When I open a book, anything is possible.
Do you know what the word inspiring means?
Yes.
Inspiring.
Inspiring means like, oh my gosh, I can do that too. I'm Delia, this is me, and these are my words.
She's phenomenal. So in the battle between messaging and pushing something out and storytelling, storytelling will always win. Because the very craft and art of storytelling is designed to elicit an emotional response in the person you're telling the story to. So I'm going to take you back to caveman days. Let's have a look. Can I get my caveman? Okay. Right now, you have sheer messaging exchange, right? Not very interesting. Now you have story. And in fact, the plot line to most stories that I've worked on in my years. So great brands, by the very definition, are meant to be powerful stories. They are powerful points of view on the world. And like the most memorable, remarkable people that you'll meet in your life, they also have the courage to step up and therefore also stand apart. But the big learning that I think we've had in the last year has been, you can only stand for what you understand. And I can't tell you how humbling that is as a philosophy for most of us in this room, which is we often know very little about the people we are actually in service of. I am British, it's not just a funny accent, and I came to New York just after Brexit and just before the election in New York, in the US. And both, it doesn't matter which way you voted, both were profound examples of how poorly oriented we are to the realities of the market, how real people think and feel. We just got it wrong. So the first task is to actually stop guessing, to recognize we're not the consumer, we're not the audience. In fact, we're usually completely the opposite. Our lives are skewed. We're more influenced by our little world and the people around us than by how real people are actually thinking and feeling. So one of the other powerful messages within that is to start listening and to actually get out of our own little ecosystems, to welcome in those diverse perspectives, and to turn deeply held biases and assumptions into insight, understanding, and love. And I really do mean love. I'm going to use a more personal example, actually, which is some of you in this room are definitely too young to have children. Some of you do. I have a little 8-year-old boy and a remarkable 13-year-old daughter. And I had a moment where a friend of mine asked her to write something for her for a project he was pitching. She squirreled away, wouldn't talk to me, and came back with this. And it turned my bias into quite an unveiling. And she writes, if you can read this, "It is mostly assumed that children are naive, that they are very unaware of the world around them, and the complete opposite is in fact true. We have a less experienced outlook on life, because clearly we've been on this earth for a much shorter amount of time. We are actually far more effective at reading people and understanding life because we are still learning. Our thoughts and our opinions have not been swayed or affected by others. Our minds and our ideas are still our own, not biased," and get this last line, not swayed by the struggle that growing up can put you through. There's something about the openness of a child's mind to embrace learning that I think is a lesson all of us should hold on to. Young children will continue to be the motors of cultural change, and yet we continue to underestimate them. And the same, as many of you know, can be said for women. Lifetime is a brand that I work on, and it's been representing women for over 30 years. We've lobbied for them, advocated for them. We felt like we'd done a great job. And yet this year, many women told us that they really did not feel heard. Only 6% of women feel represented by media. And that's at a point in time and culture where everybody is also just shouting their opinions and really nobody is listening. And gender is a cultural construct. It's made up of the laws, rules, customs, but it's also made up of the stories that we decide to tell. So as storytellers, we get an incredible example to an opportunity to be able to flip the script on those labels and boxes that we put women and children in for so long, and actually say that we can, through the stories we tell, champion their right to be whoever and whatever they want to be. So to step outside of our own box, this year we decided the best way to get a fresh, unbiased perspective was to go to women themselves. To not go with the answers, but to just go with questions, a method of production that says, let the stories just play. And to say even more actively than that, this is a safe space where your stories can be heard, where your voices are celebrated and welcomed. And we went across America, 50 states, 70 voices, those loud and proud, diverse women in their three-dimensional, in my case, often messy glory. But there's something else that's going on, which is the fact that people don't just not feel listened to. We've really found it harder to share. And there was something I heard somebody say recently where we really don't necessarily feel a sense of belonging anymore to our own tribe, but we really don't like the other tribe. And so we're kind of existing more in our echo chamber and we're not sharing. And I feel that the shortest distance between two people truly is story. And therefore we're on a mission to really tell those stories and make sure that we can capture that. The next thing I'm going to touch on very briefly, actually, is another brand that I work on called A+E, and it is full of some of the most remarkable storytellers I've ever worked with. And it really is based on a very simple belief that hiding in plain sight are remarkable stories of humanity, stories of struggle, grit, hope, determination. All we have to do is look, get closer, get to the heart of the story and find those authentic moments of truth, and then let people see them for themselves. And my husband, who's a Jay-Z fan, gave me this quote, which is, artists have greater access to reality because they can see the patterns, connections, and details that the rest of us in life, distracted by the blur, can so often miss. And I think that's really true in terms of being able to step beyond ourselves and really look at what we can offer. So I went to my boss, my CEO, and lots of people still have a boss, and I said, I've got this idea that I want to do on A+E to share our point of view, but it's not going to promote a single show, and I want to brief a spoken word artist, but he doesn't really take a brief because he's an artist, and I want my team to go in the back of a car and just film across America as they see it, completely unfiltered. And she kind of looked at me and was like, okay, Amanda, let's have a go. And let's play the clip that came through.
Look closer. Behind every stranger is a person. The stories are different, but the journey is the same. We're too caught up on the places or the faces or the names. And when you focus on the differences, it's easier to blame. 'cause it's hard to see the picture when you're hung up on the frame. America's a work of art because of struggle and pain. From the crowded city streets to the Rocky Mountain plains, our country is alive, and the spirit still remains. So the highways twist and turn across the map like they were veins, connecting us together even when we can't agree. 'Cause our common ground is that we have the freedom to be free, to take responsibility for who we choose to be, to find a compromise between the things that we believe. 'Cause despite our disagreements and the ways we've all felt, if you stop and look close enough, you might just see yourself.
So look, to wrap, I think the key message here is everybody in this room is part of the motor of cultural change. Right? I'm doing it through creativity, but everybody here is going to step into their bold future. And as we do that in my world, it's going to be more data, more rigor, more outcomes. But I think my key message is it's also going to be far more humanity and more creativity, not less. And the very definition of creativity is to transcend traditional ideas, rules, and patterns to create something meaningful and new. Not just new, but meaningful and new. And we're doing that right now through the power of listening to turn those biases into love and understanding, because it is far better to be part of something people love than to interrupt what they love. Thank you very much.